Welcome to another episode of the Executive Exclusive. I'm your County Executive, Julie Giordano, and in honor of and in remembrance of our good friend Greg Basset, I am going to say it's a big day here at PAC 14. So welcome everyone. We did take a week off. I actually didn't intend to take a week off, but we had the council meeting and then I left for vacation, and now we had another council meeting and now we're back. And it's a huge day. We're really excited to bring some updates to you all. Always with me is my wonderful sidekick, the best director of administration, Bunky Luffman. Bunky, thank you so much for being here with me.
Oh, it's great as always.
Yes. And a little bit later on in the show, you, as the audience, for the first time ever, will get to meet my Assistant Director of Administration, and it feels really good to say that, Matt Leitzel. So he'll be on in just a little bit, and I'm really looking forward to being able to talk with him and having you, as the audience, get to meet him and get to know him a little bit as a person. So we're excited about that. So, I really wanted to talk about Greg a little bit, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
We both attended Greg's memorial, and it was an amazing event. I think they just did a good job, and I think we both have stories of Greg. And so I love your story. Do you mind sharing it? Because not everybody got to hear it.
So what was great about his celebration of life is it sort of was a roast of the audience.
It was.
In a way that Greg would roast us, you know. So he, as a San Diego Charger fan, would nonetheless come to Ravens games where myself and Delegate Anderton and several people that we know have season tickets. So sometimes he'd join us at the tailgate. And we sort of have a motto at the tailgate where it's not mean if it's funny. So we pick on each other at each other's expense and in a lighthearted mood. So Greg fit right in with that model and loved it. So I said one of the ways, you know, he sort of got me was after the primary election when you were running for county council, but before the general.
County executive, not county council.
Sorry,
yeah.
County executive.
Not running for that yet.
We'll take care of that in post.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but he, so before you won the general, you had already announced that if you won, I'd be your nominee for Director of Administration. He comes up to me because Director of Administration, all the department heads report to Director of Administration. He says, Bunky, what do you know about running an airport? And I was like, not much. I've never run an airport before, but thank God Tony Rudy does,
Right.
who's the airport manager. And Greg Basset looks at me and he says, yes, Bunky, thank God.
Yeah, Greg just had such a wit about him, and I remember being in the studio. I was sitting there, and he was here, and I think he did a great job. I think he pulls the information out of people that people want to know, but he does it in such a great way, or did it in such a great way. So he's definitely going to be missed. And like I said, anybody who goes downtown and you see the courthouse lights on, please remember Greg, because that was the very last text that he sent me, and the courthouse lights are on. So Greg, we will always remember you. So. All right, so moving on, I wanted to talk a little bit about our last council meeting. The one before that was so long ago, and I had vacation in between, so I don't even remember what was on there. But one of the big things that we ended up talking about was our CIP. And so the third Tuesday in December, we have to present the CIP to the county council. We don't do it a second before, but this is just a presentation. And so the CIP, most importantly, it will be posted online so all of the citizens can see the different projects that we have found to be important, that our department heads find important to move the county forward and kind of advance the county. But it is just a plan. And so I think sometimes people forget that too. They see the dollar amount and think it's, solidified, but it's really not. So do you want to talk a little bit about our CIP?
So the CIP, Capital Improvement Plan, goes out 5 years, and it's a plan, so it is not written in stone, any of this. It certainly needs council approval, also budget approval in the individual year, but it's large capital projects. So for instance, it wouldn't be a piece of equipment maybe that we would use at the landfill that could potentially even cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's not in the CIP. However, if we were to build a building, that's going to be in the CIP. And generally, it's also something that if we're going to do it, it's going to last a long period of time. So these are often multi-million-dollar things. The sheriff's office, which is around $34 million right now, and we're still completing that project. CIP item, a new school CIP item, that sort of thing. So there are several items. Each department brings us their items, and then we go through and we look at it, and there's some things that need to happen this year or they'd like to happen this year, and some things, you put out over time. So that's sort of, we presented it and to the council, and there was some discussion, some of which was, and they even said, look, we haven't had time to go through it, but we have this question. So some of these questions that they asked are going to be budget questions that we will, we know we'll need to answer in March, April, May as we sort of craft this year's fiscal budget. So.
Yeah, and I think people have to remember too that CIP, again, just a plan, but it does lay the groundwork for how we're going to tailor the budget. And so, it's just important for us to meet with all of our department heads, figure out what is important to them. I think in this CIP, Sheriff's Office is about to be wrapped up, so that wasn't listed in the CIP, and also Mardella is no longer in that CIP because the money has already been allocated. So we're still paying on it, but you're not going to see that in the CIP. But what you will see in 2025 is we've got some big things. The first and foremost is we have $4 million set aside right now for the Board of Education. We know they want 20 because we want a new Fruitland primary, but we don't have a lot of debt falling off. And so just to make it very simple, we don't want to keep accumulating debt without some other debt being paid off. So right now we're able to set aside about $4 million for that. We had some renovations to be done at corrections, which I really am so proud of Chris Tyler coming in and really just figuring out how to utilize the space a little bit better. So there's a courtyard that she wants to change into another facility, and she has such a great vision out there. And I think that's probably one of our hardest buildings to have a vision for, I feel like, So she's done a really great job at utilizing the spaces that she has and trying to rearrange that. And Civic Center roof has been put on the back burner for a long time, and we've kind of patchworked it here, there, and everywhere. So it is time, to go ahead and get that taken care of. And it's a big revenue driver for the county.
And it's millions of dollars. And this isn't just for the Civic Center. Obviously, the Civic Center is an economic driver. We get a lot of tourism, a lot of local dollars. There's also the civic part where we have graduations, proms. You can rent out spaces. You can rent out different rooms. So different nonprofits will come in and rent out. Different businesses will rent out. Like they'll do their Christmas party, end of the year, award ceremony for employees, that kind of thing. But it's also our fallout shelter. So if there is an extreme emergency, then that is where we would go. So it is significant that we need a good roof on it, for that. So in case something really bad went wrong, we would all have a very safe, dry place to go. It's also in the summer. Homeless people go there for a cooling center. So we open it up for a wide variety of different things. And the roof has sort of been patched several times over several years, and it's at the end of its useful life, and we just have to bite the bullet and unfortunately spend millions of dollars on a roof, because that's just how much roofs for a building like that cost.
Yeah, and you were just at the school board commission meeting, right?
Yeah.
And so we found out how much roofs cost.
Yeah, roofs are incredibly expensive for these big buildings.
Yes, I feel like just everything has gone up. So we are putting that forward for 25. Those were the three big things: the renovations at the jail, the Civic Center roof, and then of course the Fruitland, the $4 million towards Fruitland primary. And I don't want anybody to think that we do not want to continue building new schools and things like that. It's just hard to do them right after another. And and we still have schools in the county that need renovations and stuff like that. And that's not we still have HVAC systems that have to be updated. So we know how important our schools are, and to keep them making sure that they're functioning correctly and that they're up to par with everything. But it's expensive. It really is. And so we have to be very smart and kind of prioritize, how we're going to do that. So
and again, some of those HVAC systems are multiple millions, for the cost. I mean, it's not.
They're
not cheap.
Yeah, not hundreds of thousands. We're talking millions of dollars,
Yeah.
I guess, because of the amount or the size of the system and all that kind of stuff and all the work that goes into it. So, so the CIP will be online. If it's not already there, it should be in the next day or two. Please, as citizens, we encourage you to go on, look at it, kind of see where, that roadmap is taking us. We always have a meeting for the public for the CIP. We really don't have a lot of people there. So I really hope that sort of changes, because we're spending millions of dollars, and I think it's really important for people to come out and say, hey, this is what's important to us in our community. So we always give the community a voice, but we do suggest going on and looking at that. But always remember, it is a plan, nothing set in stone, and then you will see those things repeated in the budget when we do the budget cycle, which is around March, April, we start meeting, and then we'll put it forward to council. So with that being said, I was trying to think if there was anything really else big at the council meeting. We had some closed sessions that, of course, we can't really chat about, but we had a couple of appointments, one to the Women's Commission and one for LMB. It was an ex officio member, right, coming on. So that's always exciting. But for the most part, it was, pretty quiet. I think that our closed door sessions kind of took a little bit of time and really talking things out. So, but yeah, we're moving forward, and we're over a year in office, and so I think that we've done really, really good things. We did pull something from the agenda, which was our liquor legislation. So hopefully the way that liquor is done here in the county is going to change. So we have the bill. The bill is drafted, but we're making sure all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed with the higher ups at the state, and then hopefully on January 2nd, we're able to present that bill to the county council, and we can get their feedback. And we had a task force with GSC, and I think we've talked about that a little bit, and talked about the different stakeholders that were on that task force. A lot of different groups represented, and this was a collaborative effort, and they presented this idea to us, and so we based the legislation off of the community needs and what the task force came up with. So
well, and liquor bills in Annapolis, they actually have a liquor day. They have an alcohol day in Annapolis, but and I don't understand why. Well, I kind of do. It's because of how the state laws are written governing alcohol. They are extremely complex. It's one of those things where if you try to do a tweak over here, something over here is going to be impacted. So when they draft liquor bills, it's not just the bill drafter doing it and giving it to you. Then it has a series. They have to give it to their supervisor at Department of Legislative Services, who then, look at it, make sure that everything, there's no unintended consequences and that kind of thing. But I remember last year, I was trying to come up sort of with a mock bill draft on the liquor bill, and I called my former boss, Secretary Jeannie Hadaway-Riccio, who was a delegate for a long time on the committee with liquor, and I told her, I was like, hey, I'm trying to come up with this bill draft, but it's so hard because there's so many different pieces of code. And I'm having trouble to even figure out what pieces of code I need to look at that will be impacted. And she just laughed. She's like, Bunky, there's no such thing as a simple liquor bill.
Yeah, well, and you said what we want to do, I feel like, is simple, but the amount of pieces of legislation that were affected were crazy, going through and making sure that we change everything, the way that it needs to be able to adhere to what we want to do. So I fully can agree with that because of what we had to do to go through this. So, but hopefully on 1-2, we will have that for them. So that's exciting. And I it's kind of crazy. So we started the executive exclusive because of the lawsuit that was going on with the county council. And we finally have resolution. We had a little bit of resolution on November 16th, and then we kind of had to back up a little bit. And then I forget the final day that it came out, the 13th, maybe? 13th or 14th? Yeah. So almost a month later. And do you want to talk a little bit about that final order from the judge?
So the judge gave his previous order, which said that our side was correct, and but he cited the code multiple times, but in one of them, or the charter, I'm sorry, and in one of the citations, it was old charter language. So Erica, who represented the executive side of this from Mr. Wilbur's office, put in a motion, said, hey, this clerical mistake, can you, address it and send the order again with that clerical mistake fixed. And the other side, the attorney for the county council, their argument seemed to be this changes everything. You've relied your opinion relies on charter that was changed and used old language. And he reaffirmed in the opinion that came out that our side was correct and that the way we went about appointing Matt was correct and was in keeping with the charter. And so Matt, we unfortunately we had to put him on an unpaid administrative leave pending this lawsuit because the county council also passed the bill defunding his position. So once his position was defunded, we obviously couldn't keep him. We couldn't keep paying him, so we put him on unpaid administrative leave. And thankfully the judge saw that, and the judge also compelled the county to give him back pay during that time, which is appropriate, because he had been waiting for it. So, we're really excited. Matt's great, and we're looking forward to working with him without sort of walking on eggshells like we were before. I mean, there's certain parts of my duties I've really had to keep to myself pending this lawsuit, because I didn't want to, if we were to lose the lawsuit, I didn't want to have to go back and say, oh, well, he signed that, is that valid? So I've continuously had to sign things and do things that typically his position would do, just to make sure, just to keep the county in good graces no matter the outcome of this lawsuit. So now the council could still potentially appeal. I don't know if they're going to. They haven't, to my knowledge, made any public statements other than I've read that some of them said they were disappointed in the outcome, which that could be expected, but I don't know one way or the other if they're going to appeal it. So.
Right. Well, and as I've said before, I feel really blessed and lucky to have Matt because of his experience. And, I ran, on public safety, education, and our local economy, and how are we going to make this a more business-friendly community. And I feel like with education, we supported education, me coming from the teaching world, I always want to make sure that education is getting what they need, and we went above maintenance of effort this year. We, and then with the economy, this liquor has something to do with our businesses, our small businesses, and affecting them. So we're hoping to kind of help them out. We've brought new developers in, and obviously help them walk through that process, and showing them that we are business friendly here. And we might not be able to, control the state regulations and things like that, but we can control things here and making it a very pleasant experience, building here in Wacomico County and coming to Wacomico County. And then, of course, that last piece was that public safety piece. And as I've stated before, when we were at that legislative breakfast, every stakeholder group talked about that public safety was their top priority, and so I felt that it was imperative to have somebody with that knowledge. And so Matt just checks all the boxes. I mean, he really does. And I'm really excited because in just a few minutes, everybody finally will get to meet Matt. We didn't really want to put him on camera just yet, and I don't really know if he wanted to go on camera, but we told him today he didn't have a choice, so he's coming on in just a few minutes. But we are really happy that everything worked out for us, and I think that as time goes on, I think I think the citizens of Wacomico County got really lucky, to have somebody like Matt in that role, because I think that he's going to be beneficial for so many different things. I mean, public safety is huge. I mean, we have the town gown with Salisbury University where all of those public safety entities meet. We have the Police Accountability Board, and that's just two things. There's so many different aspects of it where public safety is affected. And so I'm just happy, that he's there. So, and I'm sure you're happy. You can breathe a sigh of relief.
Yeah, definitely. We also have the fire and EMS side. We're going through a SWOT analysis right now on EMS. And one thing that you mentioned with bringing a developer, one of the issues local governments are dealing with all over the country is housing. And I think we are really well placed from the local government side to address housing, because there are other counties, without naming them specifically, that really say they focus on housing, but then they have impact fees that are tens of thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. And I understand that, because housing does have an impact. You have to call for service on several things or what have you. But you can't be my opinion is you can't be for affordable housing and make building totally unaffordable.
Right.
I mean, the builders obviously are going to build, but they also need to make a profit. They need to make payroll. So you have to make sure that your regulations and fees that you charge in addressing housing actually aren't so onerous that you disincentivize housing. Mm-hmm. And I think, not our county, but I think some other counties do that. Mm-hmm. And so I think our county is well placed to be competitive in that market with our regulations and our fees, because for a little over a year now, I have at several Chamber of Commerce, several one-on-ones, I've asked, and you've seen me do it, ask business owner after business owner, if you can name to me regulations that we have and ideas to tweak them, make us more business friendly, where it makes sense, let me know. Mm-hmm. And we haven't gotten a lot of feedback on that. So right now, There's business owner, other than liquor, of course, those business owners were very much like, you need to tweak this. And look, sometimes a business owner may want something that doesn't make sense. That there are some regulations that need to be there. It's just what it is. But I think we're well placed in housing to be competitive against any county in the state.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, Bunky, I get to say goodbye to you in just a few minutes, or actually a few seconds, and we're going to bring Matt on. That way the public gets to see him and hear from him and not just see his picture in the Salisbury Independent. So they actually get to see that he is a person, that I just didn't steal something off of Google Images, that he is real. So, but thank you, Bunky, and I'm sure we'll be back here soon.
Yep, definitely. Aloha means goodbye.
All right, joining me now in the studio for the first time ever on public television is my Assistant Director of Administration, Matt Leitzel. Matt, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to finally be here.
Yes, to be finally here and situated and everything is good and we are just moving forward. So first and foremost, people have read about you in the newspaper and I feel like they've done a pretty good job, but can you just tell the citizens of Wicomico County, why did I choose Matt? What would be the reasons that you would tell them that I chose you as the Assistant Director?
So I've always had a heart of service, and that stems all the way back to my formal schooling was in education. I started my career as a teacher and then moved into more of a public government, public service type role through the police department. And I think that you probably saw that I wasn't just there for me, that I wanted to go out and not just, help the citizens of our county here, but also the employees. Wicomico County is a pretty big organization, a government organization.
Yeah.
And what I hope to do is to bring some skills in leadership to help with the running of that organization, as well as be a service to the community.
Yeah, you said it better than I did. Yeah. No, it was good. And I think, but just to get to know you as a person, I mean, I think a lot of times people forget that you're a real person. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but it is. They forget that, you are a husband and you are a dad. You have a son who's off in college, right? And then you have another one who's in high school.
Yes.
And he's a senior. So he's getting ready to wrap up his senior year. And so here it is. We're going back and forth with this. You're going back and forth to Pennsylvania. You're hired. You're not hired. This is, and your family's being affected. And I think I really wanted the people, as they're watching this, to really see that you are a person and that this does affect you, and it did affect your family. And but I have to just say, and I told Bunky this too, that and I told the department heads this, like, he still wants to work here. He still wants to be here. And so we're really happy. We're really happy that you're here. And, we look forward to all the great things that you're going to bring forward to the county. So, but you were 23 years law enforcement, right? And so
Yes.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about how a lot of people get so narrow-minded when they think about police. And I think maybe it has to do with the climate today or whatever. But what are some of those skills that you kind of, gained in the police force, going all the way up to a captain, that can be transferable into this position?
So first and foremost, as I said before, whether when we're talking about public service, the service aspect is really the key to that. And it doesn't matter if it's in the form of law enforcement or in any other public service government position. You have to have that heart of service and be there for the right reasons. And so that's first and foremost the biggest thing that I can offer. But having the opportunity to stay with an organization and start at the very bottom and retire at near the very top, I was able to see leadership both from the perspective of follower and leader from every different level within that organization. And I've learned a lot over the years, not just in positive leadership experiences and in various schooling that I've attended, but I've also learned a lot of things that you don't want to do.
Right.
As an effective leader.
Yeah.
Because, anyone who's been with an organization long enough would have stories of poor leadership that they endured and how they got through that. And I've learned just as much through some of those experiences as I have from some of the positive role models that I've experienced through that career. So what I hope to bring to the table from all of that is, first of all, that service mindset, but two, the experience, seasoned experience of leadership that I can hopefully translate into running an effective organization for our community.
Yeah. You see that? And anybody wants to know why I didn't choose Matt, or like why why I wouldn't choose Matt? But no, I think it's also really important too, because you and Bunky both bring such a unique set of skills to, and I hate to say my administration because it's really our administration, but to the administration. And, coming from the classroom, I could sit here and tell you, and you've got some classroom experience too, but like, I can tell you what's great to do in the classroom, what's probably is not going to work, and the best way to reach students. And while some of those skills are transferable, it is so nice to have two individuals who, it's a lot different working with adults. And that is one thing that I have had to learn over this past year is, how are you managing adults? I manage kids all the time, and sometimes people say that that's even harder, but sometimes with adults it's really hard, Adults have, a lot of different issues than kids have. Kids have their home life and stuff like that, but adults have, bills and kids and family and they're dealing with this or dealing with that. And so I just, I'm just grateful for the two of you. And I can't even imagine, I would assume that you had to deal with all of multiple personalities and things like that, in the world that you were in.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
I know, we're still happy to be here.
A lot of people had asked, why am I still here?
Yeah.
After all of this mess. And, last year at this time, I was sitting, perfectly happy and content in my previous job, and really with no intentions to leave. And I became eligible for retirement, but there was no reason for me just to jump because that milestone was reached. And I really had no intentions of jumping at that time. But there was something that just led me to start looking around a little bit, just to put some feelers out there and see what was there. And when I saw this job come available, I truly felt led to apply and to see what would happen, and just so many songs, there's so many songs, say, let God take the wheel, so to speak.
Yeah.
And, when these challenges and hurdles started presenting themselves, a verse that just constantly coming back to my mind, Romans 8:31, if God is for us, who can be against us? To put that into context, Paul, throughout all of Romans 8, is talking about how Christ is greater than anything and everything that's before us. And that instead of focusing on, those obstacles in front of us, we should be focused on God. And, through this time, that passage gave me a lot of comfort. And to be honest, I've had some other opportunities come up along the way. You and I didn't really talk about those, but
you see, he does it on camera, so that way I can't say, "What do you mean there was other opportunities, though?"
But I felt compelled to see this through.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad I did, because God was faithful.
Yeah. Well, I think that those words are just so inspiring, especially with it being, just a couple days before Christmas. And I think, I just feel super blessed too. Like, I feel that you were meant to be here. And even though things didn't go according maybe to our plan, there was a plan. And I feel that we are there now. And I think some of the best parts about this, and I've told you this before, with the way that we did things was not ideal. We know that. And you couldn't really dive in the way that Bunky wanted to hand things off to you and whatever. And we trusted you in doing that. But the way that you came on, and with it being as incremental as it was, you really got a big dose of Wacomico County. You were able to go with me to different things that you might not have been able to go to because you would have been dealing with other things in the office. And with not being from here, I think is definitely a benefit, because we've got that outsider's view on how things could be. But also, you got to really learn this community and got to meet a lot of different people. And I think that was really important, because people and this is not the right word, but bought into you. Like they realize they're like, this guy's great. This guy's wonderful. Like, why are we fighting about this? You you weren't this like horrific person coming in. And I think that we're really lucky to have you. And I'm really grateful that everything worked out and we can breathe a sigh of relief and enjoy the holiday break. And come back, in January. You get to experience session with us. So that's going to be really exciting. And you get to see how, Maryland legislators work. So, whether good or bad, they get to, you'll get to see them at work. So that's exciting.
Moving forward, I'm just super excited to get to work finally.
Yes.
And, the last thing I would say is, despite the council's opposition to my appointment, my individual interactions with them, they've all been very friendly.
They have.
And they've been decent to work with, despite that opposition. And that gives me a lot of confidence moving forward that we're going to be able to build some good bridges and just really effectively get to work.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking forward to.
And I agree. And I have to say, there was a lot of butting heads with me and the council, and this was even before you coming on. There was some tension there. And I really think that throughout this whole process, this has actually helped rebuild some of those relationships and those bridges to it, that I can, call different councilmen and have a conversation about specific things. And I think that, as crazy as it sounds, you really helped with that because we had this tension going on, but we were able to kind of look past it to move forward. And right now, I think things are okay. We've been working, really diligently on some things. And I think we've both kind of realized the need for each other. They need me on certain things. I need them on a lot of things, and so, that we have to have a good working relationship. And I am happy that there are no grudges and you seem to be wanting to work with them and move forward. So that's exciting.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, Matt, thank you. Thank you for coming on, and we finally get to have you on here. So, and thank you to all of you. And if whenever you get to see this program, I hope you either have or have had a wonderful Christmas and holiday season. And we look forward to seeing you after the new year. So thanks so much. Have a great day.